All right, my friends, got a fun one here today. Woke up. I always wake up about 4:30 in the morning to talk, to review stuff I want to talk about. So I was reviewing an article, and I just got an idea of doing some spreadsheets because I'm weird like that. Anyway, so this one I've been working on. This is the second go around at this video. Hopefully it works. My last audio was weak, and I think I have since found a solution. I went and bought a Mac Air or whatever they're called. I think my Chromebook is just getting old. Which is too bad. But anyway, all right, so let's hope this audio works. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to take a household at $60,000 a year as median income in the United States. So you are 66 and you're going to retire at 67. The median household in the U.S. is $60,000 a year. All right, that's the median. 50% make more, 50% make less. That's a good place to start. And we're going to say you are the median household in the U.S. In this case, we'll say you've made the median income in the U.S. throughout your life. And so let me tell you what I hear a lot. I didn't make $60,000 a year in 1997. No crap, Sherlock. You made the equivalent of $60,000 a year in 1997, which let's just say it's $37,000. I have no idea. I didn't make $60,000 a year in 1989. I was making $12,000. No crap. That was the equivalent of $60,000 a year today. We're using the median income throughout historical Social Security numbers, and we're saying you made that over the course of your work history. And that today happens to be $60,000 a year. Before it wasn't that. That's why the Social Security has this thing called the inflator. They say, what was your earnings, your actual dollars you made in 1994, 2004, 2014? Will inflate those earnings as per your earliest year of eligibility. Now, I'm not going to dive into that here. If you want me to dive into that more, put in the show notes because I've done other videos on it. But, again, I've done 1,000 videos, so it's going to be hard to find. So if you want me to do more on those information, let me know. Just put in the show and say, hey, put more on that because on FRA, AIME, how you determine your Social Security amount. All right, so in this case, the median income is $5,000 a month. All right, now we take out FICA, 7.65. We take out 401k contributions of 5%, and we take out Fed taxes, and I'm using an effective tax rate of 6% after your standard deduction, and we're assuming this guy, lady, or this household is married, filing jointly. So in this case, they have all that money right there is what they lose to FICA, 401k, and federal taxes, no state tax, mind you. And we're saying they have $5,000 gross, they got net $4,067. That's roughly 80% replacement ratio. Now, again, I think that's on the high end, and I've talked about that on other videos, but we'll just use that for the time being because I think it's a nice number to start with. So they're going to say we are going to spend everything we spent in retirement, that what we spent when we weren't retired. So even though we're spending a lot more back when we're going to commute in our crappy old job on gas, on car maintenance, on clothes, on out to eat for lunches and whatnot, we're going to assume all that expenditure stay the same. So after taxes, FICA, and 401k, we spend $4,067 a month. All right, now what happens is we take our median income, we come over here to our AIM, average index monthly earnings, and we have $5,000 as our average index monthly earnings. You take the first bend, that gives us $833 of income we'll receive from Social Security at our full retirement age. You take the second bend, and that gives us $1,300 a month that we'll receive at our full retirement age for Social Security. And that gives us a PIA of $2,137. And again, if you want me to dive into that deeper in the show notes, by all means, put a comment there because this right here is probably the most important thing that comes to your retirement right here, this whole scenario. All right, now if we take it early, we get $1,495 because it's reduced by 30%. If we take it later at 70, we get $2,649 because it's increased by 24%. We're going to take it at 67, which is our full retirement age. All right, so now we need $4,068 a year, and we have Social Security at $2,137 a month, month. So we have a deficit there of $1,930. But you'll see that deficit grows each and every year, a monthly deficit. Why? Because we're inflating our income needs, our consumption or our spending at 3% a year. And our Social Security cost of living adjustment only grows at 2.6% a year because that's the Social Security trustees report is their assumption for cost of living adjustment. So you'll see the deficit each and every month, and in this case, each and every year, it grows. 1930 to 1997 a month to 2066 and so on. So we annualize all this stuff, and we have an annualized deficit for that first year in retirement at 67, our full retirement age, of $23,165. We divide that by 0.05 because I use a 5% withdrawal rate. And if you want me to talk about why I'm very, very comfortable with a 5% withdrawal rate, just put that in the show notes, and I will. I'm not going to do it here, but I'd certainly be happy to do another video on that. And so we take the deficit we need with a 5% withdrawal rate, and we need a portfolio in this scenario of $463,000. All right. Now, if we only got a 5% rate of return, how long will that portfolio last before we're running out of money, given inflation at 3% and cost of living adjustment for Social Security only at 2.6? And the answer is we come down here and it will be exhausted in year 24. So if we're 67 and we get a 5% rate of return, by the time we're 91 years old, we'll have no money left in our portfolio. All right. Now, what if we have a 1.04% rate of return? Let's do that now. In this case, the money is exhausted at right here, year 22. So it'll be 89 if we only got a 4% rate of return year over year. What if we got a 6% rate of return? And we'll be exhausted at year 28. So that'd be 95. So basically 95, 91, and 88, I think, is the 3 years that the money will be exhausted if we had $463,000 and we had to make up the deficit with a 3% inflation on spending and only a 2.6% inflation on income. We'd run out of money basically between 88 and 95. I think 95, right? Or is it 90, 67? 95. All right. So let's just say 90 years old for simplicity. All right. But that's not it, though. Because what I believe, and I think you should too, and hopefully I've been able to convince you to believe this, is that you actually will have less spending. You're going to consume less each and every year. So in this case, we're going to have our regular inflation of 3% a year, but we're going to reduce our consumption by 1% a year. All right. So basically, we take $4,068 a month as our first year expenditures. We're going to inflate that by 3%, and then we're going to reduce that by 1 percentage point. All right. So you see 4,068 inflated by 3%, but reduced by 1% gives us a $4,148 is our consumption needs the following year, 4,229, which is a little bit different than here. We have 4,190, 4,315. So it's not quite on the front end as big a deal, but it does become a bigger and bigger deal. And here's year 45, and you're not going to live till year 45 in retirement. But let's just use that for example. It's 14,934, and year 45 here is 9,597. Let's go to year 25, 6,496 in year 25. But if we're not reducing our expenditures, it's 8,268. So you can see, even just with a 1% decline of consumption each and every year, even with inflation at 3%, it can be a pretty significant level of lessened spending, especially as the years go on. The first couple of years, not a big deal, but it certainly becomes more and more of a big deal later. Now, we're still getting a 2.6% cost of living adjustment. So inflation is still eating away at our Social Security cost of living adjustment, but because we're consuming less, and we're not talking significant less, we're just talking 1% a year, each and every year, less than what we did the previous year after inflation kicks in. So we're still spending more in dollars, but it's less relative to what it was if we consume the same amount each and every year adjusted for inflation. I hope that makes sense. So you can see we're spending $4,000 a month in the first year of retirement. We're spending $5,000 a month in year 12 of retirement, whereas before we were spending $5,000 a month in year 8 in retirement. So that's where you can see the difference between the 1% reduction in actual spending even after inflation kicks in. All right, so now we still have the same annualized amount deficit the first year, $23,167. So we still need $463,000 for a portfolio at a 5% withdrawal rate. But now, how long will this last at 5%? So if you scroll down here, and this will be exhausted in year, let's see here, right there, year 36. So we'll be 103 years old when we run out of money at a 5% rate of return if our spending declines by 1% a year. What if we got a 4% return? How long will the portfolio last there? If we got a 4% rate of return, the portfolio would last until we are 29. So what's that? 29 plus 67. What's that? 96. So it lasts until we're 96. And if we got 6% rate of return, and you can see we're not swinging for the fences here in these rates of return, by the way. I think the portfolio will last forever. So we got 6% rate of return. The portfolio will last and for 45 years with still $261,000 left. So what that simply says is if we go back to the 5%, if we got 5% a year rate of return, our portfolio will last well until we're over 100 years old, making up the deficits that we need. So if we start with $463,000, we got 5% a year rate of return. It's adjusted each and every year for inflation, but our actual consumption goes down by 1% a year. We're not going to run out of money until we're 103 years old. All right, so let's just say that's a little bit too extreme for you. Like, nah, I don't like that, Josh. I get the idea of reduction in expenditures, but I don't know if I like it 1% a year. So let's say in this case, we're going to reduce it by 5% every 10 years. So our income is going to go by 3% inflation. Our income expenditures, will grow by 3% a year with inflation. So $4,068 until we hit year 9, and there'll be $5,153 a month now. And then in year 10, we're going to reduce it by 5%. So now we're down to $5,042 a month. And then we're going to do the same thing, grow and grow and grow until year 19, we're at $6,578 a month. And then in year 20, it'll go down to $6,437. So remember, it took us from year 1 till year 8 before we passed a $5,000 a month threshold in spending with just an inflated adjusted amount without reduction in spending. It took us to year 12 if we reduced it by inflation, reduced it by 1% a year. And then it took us to year 10, year 8 as well, though, if we reduce it by 5% reduction after 5% reduction after 10 years, if that makes sense. But the issue is the year 8, we still haven't had any reduction. It's only until year 10 it gets reduced back to just above $5,000 a month. So now it's kind of like the middle of the road. We said we like the idea of consumption declining, don't like the idea of it so much declining in the first, like say 10 years, but after year 10, we get that it can decline by, in this case, 5%, even though studies show significantly more than 5%, but we'll just use that for a nice round conservative ballpark number. Then it keeps going with 3% a year for inflation. Then come year 20, it declines by another 5%. And then in year 30, it does the same. Still starting with the same portfolio, $463,000, because it's all premised on how much you need that first year. And now we get a 5% rate of return. When will this portfolio be exhausted? In this scenario, and it's going to be exhausted in year 27. So that's what, you're 94 years old. So in this case, if you only got a 5% rate of return on your portfolio, your portfolio will last until you're 94 years old before it's exhausted. If you got a 4% rate of return on your portfolio, it will last until you're, let's see, right there, it will last until you're 90. All right. And then if you got a 6% rate of return on your portfolio, it will last until you're right there, 32 years. So if you got 6% rate of return, it'll last until you're 99. If you got a 4% rate of return, it'll last until you're 90. And I forgot what it was if you got 5%. Let's just say 93. So again, you have ample resources to last until you're, literally until you're well in your 90s for sure, depending on the rates of return on your portfolio that you got. Now, I hear some people say, yeah, but you're not factoring taxes, Josh. You got to look at taxes. All right, so let's do the tax thing here. This is actually pretty easy to do because they're saying, hey, Josh, what you're doing here is you're showing taxes coming out of your median income at $5,000 a month, and you're having taxes coming out. You're not having FICA, of course, when you're retired, but you're not having 401k, but you still have to pay taxes to the Fed and to the state once you retire on that income you have. And the answer is no, you don't. Let me show you why. All right, so Social Security is roughly $24,000 a year. All right, your portfolio is roughly $24,000 a year as well. And so what we do is we got to find out provisional income, and that is 1/2 of your Social Security benefit plus all other income. All right, so 1/2 of our Social Security benefit is $12,000 plus all other income, in this case $24,000. So $12,000 plus $24,000 equals $36,000. All right. Now the first $32,000 of that 36 is not subject at all to taxes. It's just not, because what we're trying to figure out is provisional income, is how much of our, let's just type in provisional income, how much of our Social Security will be subject to tax. All right, so the first $32,000 of your provisional income, none of it's subject to taxation. Here's our provisional income. It's this number right here. All right, so 36,000. 36 minus 32 is leaves us $4,000. $4,000, only 50% of that amount is subject to tax, which is $2,000. If we had any amount above $44,000 for provisional income, 85% of that would be subject to taxation. But anyway, so $2,000 of our Social Security benefit is subject to taxation, plus all of our other income, which is the amount we're taking from our portfolio. That means our AGI is $26,000. If we're married filing jointly, we have standard deductions in 2019 of $27,000, which means we have negative taxable income. So we pay no tax whatsoever. All right. So there you go. That's how much you need if you want to have your portfolio last until your 90s for sure, and you're spending only 80% of what you did in retirement. I'd actually say that's even too high, frankly. The reason I say that is because lots of studies now are showing about a 60% replacement ratio, which I actually agree with. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It matters what your consumption is. I don't care what this retirement income portfolio is. I care about what you spend. What you spend is the most important issue. And so just saying we need 80% of our pre-retirement income is silly on its face. Why do we say that? Because in this case, I just showed you 80% of our pre-retirement income, but it's meaningless because it only takes into fact taxes, Social Security, 401k contributions. How about other stuff? The commute to Buckhead, the wear and tear on your vehicles, getting your clothes dry cleaned, all the lunches that you eat, all the, the secret Santa parties that you do, all that stuff. You got to factor in that. And we're not doing that here. And even here, we're still showing it's pretty favorable to you when you figure out your actual retirement. Now, some people will say, what? You're telling me I only need $5,000 or $4,000 a month to live on? Man, if you've been living on $5,000 a month before taxes and your debt level hasn't gone up, yes, you only need $4,000 a month, because why would all of a sudden out of nowhere, if you're living on $5,000 gross, will you need $10,000 a month? You never had it before. It doesn't make sense that people say, $5,000 a month is not enough. Well, what are you living on now? $5,000 a month, before or after taxes? Before tax. So you're living on $4,000 a month. Why would you need $10,000, $8,000? It doesn't make sense. So if you're used to a lifestyle of $5,000 a month gross, certainly you can be used to a lifestyle of $4,000 a month net, because you're no longer paying taxes. I would even argue it's probably $3,000 a month instead. All right. So I hope this helps. Actually, I'm just curious. What if we did, instead of this right here, what if we did $3,000 a month? We'll just do a $3,000 a month. We're going to say, let's see, you got C5 there, right there. I'm just going to say $3,000 a month. I'm just curious to see what we need there. All right. In that case, we need $207,000, man. I mean, yeah, I'll do another video on that later on. All right. Thanks, guys. If you like what you see, subscribe. The 4 S's: subscribe,